So yeah, I'm Lizzie and I work for the Association of Christian Teachers and I have done since September. So we're an organisation, thanks Ross, we're an organisation that works to support, equip and inspire Christians who work in education, whether they're teachers or not, or support staff or in whatever capacity really. As I said, I've been working with them since September. I'm their executive officer. We've got a very small staff team. I work 2 days a week, and I have a colleague who also works about 8 to 10 hours a week as well, doing some administration support. So, as I said, ACT works supporting teachers to be salt and light in the classroom, to understand some of the challenges they are up against, but also some of the freedoms that they do actually have, to be salt and light and to share Jesus in a kind of gentle and wise way with colleagues and potentially even children in some contexts. So if I can, I'm going to give you a brief overview of some of the challenges and prayer needs of education and teachers and Christian teachers in particular. I can also give you a bit of an overview of the work of ACT and what we're doing. Maybe I'll just I'll go through this PowerPoint briefly because this was really for we had a Zoom prayer meeting a week or so ago, and it's probably a little bit in depth. It was a few weeks ago actually. I will endeavour to kind of go through it and summarise. So I'll start here. So when it comes to teachers and staff, as I'm sure you're aware at the moment, schools are under lots and lots of pressure, and they're having to react rapidly to the changing guidance. They want to be able to support the students who might not be able to access the online learning as well as other students can, or as often. But it's really difficult when that provision isn't always straightforward, and also when they're having to welcome large numbers of children in school, as many as 50% in some schools. And it is wonderful in some respects that there can be a haven for children who really do need that. It is also really challenging, obviously continuing to make schools safe for staff and students. But then remember, early years have not had the same treatment as primary and secondary schools. Early year settings have stayed open throughout this particular lockdown. And I know that that's caused quite a lot of worry and stress for some of the staff there. And of course, in the classroom, some teachers are feeling vulnerable and in danger and having to replan lessons and learning plans with little warning. And then obviously having to juggle that in-person learning as well as online learning. And I see that with my son's teacher in particular. I came out of teaching about a year ago, so I've not actually practiced during the pandemic. But my goodness, the amount of work that woman does, and it's such high quality, and there's such a care there as well. Do pray for teachers who are having to support students' mental health at a distance and who are looking out for safeguarding issues. Now, it's really difficult to spot safeguarding issues when you're behind a computer screen, and perhaps when vulnerable children don't come into school who should be there, or perhaps there are children who are being overlooked and haven't been on the radar before. It can sometimes be a really worrying time for teachers. And I know in particular there are staff who perhaps are engaging with children online and perhaps just seeing them with a blank screen behind them. But there's one instance where somehow the screen moved and they could see that there was a family all in one room and they were all sleeping on mattresses on the floor, and it was an awful state. The home was in an awful state with all kinds of things all over the floor, and and feces, and it was just incredibly worrying, and thankfully that was a good opportunity to pick that up. But there must be many other children who are in homes that are not safe. Thinking as well in particular about Christian teachers, because Christian teachers have a unique place and a unique task in showing love and grace and care to the children in their care and the families that they're working with. And this does give an opportunity for them to do that. We do need to pray for Christian teachers to have grace and restraint, because however they feel about government decisions, it's very easy to get swept up with complaints and frustrations. And some of those opinions may not be wrong, but I think having restraint in how they respond to that online, making sure that they don't become keyboard warriors, but maintaining some sense of respect of authority, even if it's not always, in their opinion, the most wise decisions, and also in knowing how to respond to sometimes politicised advice from unions. And Christian teachers are still having great contact with organisations such as Open the Book and Youth for Christ. And I know in our local area, Open the Book teams have still been working really hard to record Bible stories and then send them into school. And they'll have these amazing videos that are made with great care, and it must have taken a long time to get individual members of local Open the Book teams to act out Bible stories, and then someone will have to then edit that and put it all together. And most schools are really receptive. I know my son's school loves that, and they look forward to every single opportunity they have to get these brilliant videos shown in lessons. So please do pray that Christian teachers can maintain that. I'm sorry, I know this is probably a lot to remember, so don't think you have to remember it all. It's just a bit of an overview, really. As we said, you know, pupils are going to be at risk. Many of them will be in school, but not all of them. Please do pray for students over the disappointment of cancelled exams. There's still a bit of confusion about mini exams, and perhaps this real sense of feeling blamed for coronavirus rates. As I'm sure many of you are aware, particularly if you've got kids at home who you're having to homeschool, or if you know people who are, it's really hard for families to facilitate homeschooling. And it can be a really stressful environment. And also, we do also support university staff, although there aren't that many on our books, but students there who really can't have a normal or optimum experience. I know that that's a real sadness. And then just finally, do pray for the government. Please do pray for Gavin Williamson to have insight and empathetic understanding of these real pressures faced by schools. Please do pray for the new Education Recovery Commissioner. I've only given him his first name there. He does have a surname as well. I obviously forgot it when I was writing it down. But please pray for wisdom in how to enact this recovery plan. Should there be longer school days? Should there be extra tuition? Should summer holidays be shorter? It's really difficult to know what the best thing is. And no one is, I don't think any of us are expecting it'll be an easy kind of task, a win-win, a silver bullet that's going to make this easier. And I think it's not going to be possible to make everyone happy with that. Yeah, just continue to pray that there'll be clear communication and guidance. I think that's when I speak to many of my members and the stress they're under, it really is the clarity which they would like. It's not necessarily the guidance, but it's the clarity and the timeliness in which that is communicated that they find really difficult to cope with. So there's so much stuff. I'm really sorry I've bombarded you there. But in essence, please just pray for Christian teachers, and that they will just seize this opportunity, that they'll be encouraged, that they will be salt and light, that they will show that they are not willing to engage with some of the anger and the moaning, and they will just have grace and care and generosity with all that they come into contact with. And please do pray for their safety as well. Oh, and also, I forgot to say this, but please do pray for other issues in education. There's still stuff going on, even amidst the pandemic. There's a new relationships and sex education curriculum. It's meant to be in place by the summer term. And there's lots and lots of worries about how that could be implemented. Also, calls to reform the nature of religious education. That's something that ACT are having a hand in trying to ameliorate a little bit. Please do pray for Scotland and Wales. Their educational landscape is much more liberal in terms of the direction of travel, in terms of some of the content of curriculum and the safeguards there as well. So, for example, Williams is attempting to push education bills through, which perhaps haven't had the scrutiny that would be really helpful. And yeah, a lot of members of the Senate seem to be backing that without really looking at what safeguards there could be. So anyway, I don't know exactly what we're to do now, Ros. Are we going to pray in response to that? Would you like me to say anything about what ACT are doing, or I don't want to just hear my voice over and over?
No, that's brilliant, Lizzie. And I think that, we can come back and keep praying for schools and education as well. We've got 12 minutes left, so I think it'd be really great to pray. So if you want to unshare, and then everyone feel free to unmute and go for it. That would be great. But just to say thank you. It's great to hear a little bit more about what's going on. I guess all of us have some sort of contact with somebody who's struggling with home teaching, or their kids are not able to do their exams, etc., etc. So any questions actually before we go into prayer? Does anybody want to comment?
I just wanted to ask, when you said there was difficulty with the teachers' union, is there a Christian representative on the teachers' union? Could we pray for that perhaps to give you more leeway?
So that's a really interesting question. I don't know if there are, I'm sure there are many Christians who are involved in the main education unions. And really the main education union is the National Education Union. I think there's such a history of teaching unions being incredibly politicized and possibly amongst the most abrasive of unions when it comes to suggestions from education secretaries. And that's not me trying to make a political statement. I think that's just quite obvious. I think having Christians who are either involved in the unions or just being willing not to take such a blunt, angry tone in the kind of in the conversations with government would be helpful. And also just having that real expression that teachers really want to care and serve children and families. And often it can feel as if, and this probably sounds again a little bit politicized, it can often feel as if teachers are being forced into doing a job that they hate or that they find completely unreasonable. And I think particularly for Christian teachers, this is a God-given vocation. They want to serve these children and to do so selflessly. And of course, that doesn't mean putting themselves at risk, but to have that tone of sacrifice and care and compassion for the children they're working with, I think is very important.
Okay. Thank you.
Lizzie, I just wanted to say thank you as well for mentioning early years, because I know they're going through a lot of stress really, because introducing safety measures to social distancing with 2, 3, and 4-year-olds doesn't really work. It's my wife runs a PVI setting, and it's been a challenging, very difficult time, but it's also been actually quite good, because we've seen so many families who really needed that provision, supported and encouraged by the fact that it's been there. So yeah, it'd be good to pray for the early years, the forgotten sector very often in all of this.
Yeah, thank you, Stephen.
I just add one more sort of prayer request into it, because I was a teacher in Wales until about a year ago as well, and kind of in addition to what you were saying about Kirsty Williams, she's actually leaving this summer, or at the next election, whenever it is. And one of the big things going on in Welsh education was meant to be a brand new curriculum starting in September, but there hasn't been any word, given the pandemic, about that starting, and there is a lot of upheaval of the schooling system through that. So yeah, I actually didn't know about ACT as a teacher, and I wish I had known, because I think I definitely needed it in my last couple of years.
Well, that's something we're trying to rectify, Steph. I also worked in education for 12 years and I had never heard of ACT.
Yeah.
So you're not alone.
Okay, so there's quite a call out for all of us to let other people know about the different professional sector groups.
Yeah.
Perhaps when we have our monthly, hourly call, that could be another agenda topic about how do we raise each other's profiles so that more people can know through our local churches. But hey, let's pray, show in the last 8 minutes, and then you can keep the conversation going on WhatsApp, connect with people directly. I'll stop recording now, and then you're all free to pray however you want to pray.